you to Dream Chasers Radio with me, your host, Yaya Diamond. What's up, people? How you doing? It is the Author Edition, and I'm so very excited to have my next guest on the show today. This is just something that I have always wanted to do. I've always wanted to go sailing, but I get sick. If I'm driving the boat, I'm fine. But if I'm not driving the boat, I'm pretty not fine. And don't let me eat before it. It's not nice. But my next guest started sailing and started boating and all of the seas and everything very young. Very young. And he's been doing it for a while. And he has his new book out. It's actually a relaunch. And I'm so excited to have William Fortenbaugh here. And I hope I said that right.
Yes, you did. Fortenbaugh.
I did it. Welcome to the show.
All right. Good.
Thank you. So tell us about yourself.
I'd like to tell you I'm a perfectly normal man, but
No.
my wife would disagree with that. Because my abnormality, which sometimes attracts people. But forget all of that. I taught ancient Greek philosophy in college after time spent at Princeton and time spent at Oxford. And I've been doing that now for 40 years. And it's just good fun. The ancient Greeks were up to important things. They were doing ordinary language philosophy, and they were working on things like, what is it to be emotional? And they did something. It wasn't a matter of Plato. Let me just jump back one person. Plato thought that being angry was a matter of having a pain in your chest or in your behind or goodness knows where. Just plain wrong. For Aristotle, to be angry is caused by the thought of injustice. And I like people who are interested in thoughts and not people who are interested in pains in their butt or in their chest or wherever they may be.
Wow. I never thought about that. I didn't think about, next time I get angry, I'm going to figure out if I have any pains anyway.
No. If you get angry, you have to think of it that you've been treated unfairly.
Treated unfairly. Okay. All right. So if I get angry, then that means I've been treated unfairly. Okay.
And that's why you can talk a person out of being angry.
You can.
Yes, of course you can. If the person is convinced nothing unfair has occurred, the person will cease to be angry. Now, I know people you can't convince that nothing unfair has been said, but there we are.
I've seen them on camera.
Yeah.
I've seen them on camera. Wow. So your life studying these philosophers, studying it and actually teaching, tell me a few things about these people, these ancient people that most people like this, what you just told me. I didn't know that, but something that you taught that most people don't know.
Most people don't know. Well, yeah, sure. This notion that your behavior is determined by your thoughts is extraordinarily important. And it's why we can reason a person out of being frightened, angry, and so on. And if you think that it's something that is strictly sensational, sensational in the sense of pain, that anger is a pain, you can't get rid of it. And of course, some people can't get rid of their anger. But that's because either their body is dysfunctional or they're bullheaded and won't think things through. I prefer the bullheaded person to the person who is mentally deranged and suffering from constant pain. Okay, now that's
Wow. Okay, so a lot of people say that the philosophers wrote really amazing literature, and their artwork and their sculptures and everything. When you're teaching about this or when you're thinking about this, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Well, if I'm teaching, it's reaching the students, and that's why ethics is such an easy topic to teach, because all students have ethical problems in things like anger or just plain old-fashioned desire, and they want to hear about it. And the high point in my teaching life was after the last class, maybe 10, 15 years into teaching, a student came up to me and said, "Oh, Mr. Fortenbaugh, that's the best class I ever had." Now, I hadn't assigned grades yet, so she may have had a different motivation than, but I took her at her word, and I think it's because I do convey the idea that these are important issues. And a lot of teachers are dull, never raise their voice. They hide behind notes. Oh my goodness, I never did that. Just get in front of the class, start waving your arms, and say something important.
Wow. You're right. You're definitely right. So, okay, so let's talk about your book. So you
Yeah,
have a book that you've relaunched, and I'm absolutely in love with the first part of the cover page. Is that you on the boat? So it's the cover of the book. It has like a blue cover to it, and
yeah,
it's got a couple of boats on there from
yeah.
Beaton to
From
Beach Haven.
right, and it's a wonderful picture if you think about it,
Oh
because the
yeah.
boats are very big, and there's one out in front and one chasing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the last race of the season, and we were winning the season by 1 point, and we had to keep a boat that's not in the picture behind us, and we had a squabble on the boat because I wanted to keep that was 1 point behind us, but my crew wanted to try and win the race, which meant beat the boat in front of us. And I very rarely in sailing assert myself and tell people to be quiet and do what I say. But I had to here, because if we started trying to pass the boat in front, the boat that was dead behind us and not shown in the picture might slip past us. And that would have been very sad. We would have arrived at dock in tears, or at least I would have been. But that didn't happen. I won the day. They kept quiet. We stayed in front.
Wow. Wow. It's something to get on a boat. How did you feel? How did you feel when you got on that boat and you were just, sailing and going out into the ocean?
How did I feel?
Yeah, how does it feel to be able to just go in water? Do you miss the
If
land?
you start at the age of 7, as I did, it's second nature by the time you were. That picture must have me at about the age of 40.
Wow.
And so I had a few years behind me. And I'd also managed to tip over this big boat. It's got a mast that's close to 50 feet high,
Yeah, I saw that.
and you don't want to tip over. But the first race in that boat, we actually sank and had to be towed back in. Now, that was the first race. That wasn't the season championship or anything else. But we learned very quickly how much power that boat has, and be obedient when the wind comes up, and do what nature tells you to do. Let your sails out, or put more people on the boat, or goodness, that was something like that.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So tell me about your book.
Well, I wrote a book about this boat because,
Yeah.
well, two things, three or four things. First of all, I had it made. I wanted to get out of really hot racing. I was racing what's called an e-scow, and they were 28 feet long, very, very fast. And if you weren't tip-top shape, you better go home. And I had already gotten to the age of 60 or so, and I realized I had to change classes. So I had this boat built. And that, I think, is probably the most important part of the book. Somebody would say, well, building a boat, that's rather childish. You just take wood, you take nails, and you put the two together, and you have a boat. It's not true. It's not true. And the whole first part of the book is devoted to building this book, and it's well photographed by a professional photographer who also is a sailor. It's all done with I don't know, whatever the technical term is, but it captures the wood and so on and so forth. And so I think it's an important book. If you know nothing about wooden boats, and you know nothing about building wooden boats, damn it all, buy a copy and read it, and you'll learn a great deal.
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, isn't there such thing as bending the wood? I mean, you got to be able to bend the wood
Oh,
and
sure.
shape it. And And I mean, wood can be bent, wood can be shaped, but there's a certain technique to it. I mean, it's just like really technical. I mean, and if you do it wrong, you could die.
Well, but the first thing is there's two things you got to get. I got the right kind of wood, a wood
Mhm.
that bends, and you got to have steam chambers or steam boxes in which you put the wood so it will bend. And before
Mm.
doing that, out of a very strong wood, an oak or the like, you build a frame. And the book starts by showing building a frame, steaming the wood, and bending around
Wow.
the frame. Now, that may sound dull, but it isn't because all the photographs are high definition. That's the word I wanted. All the photographs are high definition photographs. And if you really do, are so well, plastic boats today aren't built this way. But
Right.
this is an old fashioned boat. The class still maintains you can only race if you're made of wood. And
Mm.
so you fall in love with wood, you fall in love with the boat, and you just don't do plastics.
Wow. Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah.
So, what are you going back out again?
Yes.
When are you going back out?
Well, if you want to come, I'll just send your address and we'll go. But no, no, no. The boat. I raced the boat for up to 10 years, and retired it. I took a tax deduction giving it to a museum, but the museum could never do with it what they wanted to. They went and sold it to somebody else, and it's back racing. And it's great fun to see this boat racing that you once raced yourself. Yeah, and
Mm.
it's hard as a rock because it's built on wooden frames, the right wood, oak typically, and then mahogany on the deck, and so
Oh
on.
man,
Eh,
mahogany?
Yeah, yeah. Well, these have to be. It's not only beautiful, but strong. It's all these woods have to be strong because it's
Hmm.
got a mast and it's over 30 feet up in the air, and that puts a lot of pressure on the bottom of the boat. When the boat starts rolling over in the wind, you got to have a strong boat.
You gotta have a strong person.
Well, yeah, that helps too. But with what we learned immediately that we needed a big fat man on the boat because the first race we not only swamped, we actually sank and had to be towed back to dock.
Yeah.
And our competitors, who hadn't seen Ghost before, our boat, they hadn't seen our boat before, thought, well, that's fine, new boat, but they'll never do anything, they're no good. But we got our act together. We went back out the next week, but we had an addition. We had a man who weighed well over 200 pounds. And
Mm.
if you put him in the right place, not too far forward, not too far aft, and on the windward deck, so he can hold the boat down, or at least contribute greatly to that. So
Wow.
we made some changes, human changes in this case.
Hmm. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool. So all of this is in your book.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Wow. What do
You
you want people to get out of reading your book? Because it just sounds so much fun. It sounds like, wow, it sounds racing boats and with mahogany. It sounds 200-pound plus people. I mean, yes.
can- well, I think I want them to get out of it that sailboat racing has a charm all its own. And it takes a lot of work, of course. That's the other thing. Man, most people don't really want to train the crew and practice. And that's when I really quit racing. I mean, there came a point when I didn't want to train a crew. But up until I was, well, I don't know, let's just say in my late 60s, I enjoyed training the crew. And we'd get out there and we'd practice coming about and changing course, that is, changing course, moving the fat man around, that sort of thing. And
Oh my God.
the guy who's fat really doesn't mind being it because that's why he's on there. And
Right.
it's a lot of big people out there who like to be big. I never have understood this. I'm quite little. And so I can move around in the boat and not upset things. But if you're a big man, well over 200 pounds, you can't just move around.
No, you cannot. You cannot. No,
No.
you cannot. Wow, that is kind of cool though. So,
Yeah.
all right. So, where can people find your book? Where can they get this book? This interest. And now, let me tell you something. I am an advocate for getting out of the house. I get these kids out the house, get them learning something, enjoying the outdoors, whether it be in the dirt, on the field, you know, making mud pies, or on a boat. I mean, literally speaking, there are so many different things that we could be doing besides sitting behind a phone on social media.
Well, I mean, well, there's a lot of things you could do, of course, but one is to read what I wrote, which means reading from Beaton's to Beach Haven, and Beaton's are the people who build the boat. And if somebody is living close enough to Barnegat Bay and wants to go see Beaton's boatyard, I asked them to get in touch with me, and I will be delighted to give them a tour. And Beaton's would love it themselves. They're very proud of their work, and they ought to be.
Wow.
But go to any boatyard and working in wood today. Of course, so many things are made of plastic, and but that's okay too, because of the boats I was racing before I had a wooden boat built were plastic, and there was almost no upkeep until you had an accident. But assuming that didn't happen, there was no upkeep. But these boats require an enormous amount of upkeep. You've got to keep them dry so they don't put on that much weight. All right, I'll just stop there.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and put your website in the description box below so that people can get it. And it is literally WilliamFortenbaugh.com. I'm going to put that down in the description box below so that it's easy for you guys to get it. It's William, and the last name is spelled F as in Frank, O-R, T as in Tom, E-N, B as in boy, AUGH.com. And I want to thank you, sir, for being on the show. It's such a pleasure.
All right, well, I just want to tell you something about the English language.
Yes.
The last part of my name, Baugh, is an odd combination of letters in English.
It is.
And it's pronounced Baugh, and it's like Kavanaugh. And Augh is a common enough Irish ending or Scottish ending. But has nothing to do with sailing. That's just who I am and who Mr. Kavanaugh and so on are. They're Irishmen by birth or family history.
Wow, that is so cool. Well,
okay.
McFerrin is a Irish last name, and that's my father's last name. I got 17%. So
good.
Never know, we might be family. Oh man, I want to thank you so much for being on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hey, if you want to comment below about where you're from, or if you love boating and you've raced before, or if you ever want to go ahead and get that tour, or you just don't know what to do, you can contact him on his website. He has a contact.
Please do. Please contact me. It'd be fun.
Definitely, definitely. Or you could just go ahead and go below wherever we are and just go ahead and comment, hey, I'm interested. We'll keep an eye out on that and make sure that you get in touch with William. Okay. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to dare to be different. And until next time, bye.